I never thought my life could change in one night, but it did. It started with a single betrayal and ended with a truth no one was ready to face. For as long as I can remember, I thought my sister Millie was the problem. She was the rebel, the loud one, the troublemaker. At least, that's what my parents told me. They made me believe she was crazy, unstable, dangerous, even selfish. And I believed them because I was the quiet one, the obedient one, the child who wanted nothing more than peace in a house where peace didn't exist. But the truth was darker, sharper, and far more terrifying, because the sister I was taught to hate was the only one who ever fought for me. And by the time I realized it, it was almost too late. I used to believe I was the lucky one, the perfect daughter, the good child, the one my parents always praised. When I was younger, people in our neighborhood would smile at me and say, "You're just like your mother, so polite, so well-behaved, so sweet." And I would beam with pride, because that's all I ever wanted, to make my parents proud. But Millie, my older sister, she was different. At least that's what everyone said. She wasn't quiet like me. She wasn't soft or obedient. She talked back. She questioned rules. And she never ever seemed to care about being perfect. My parents hated that about her. I remember one night when I was 9, sitting at the dinner table. My father had just asked Millie why her teacher called home again. She had refused to stand in line, apparently. Something so small, but my father's face turned red with anger. "Do you enjoy embarrassing us?" he snapped. His fork clattered against his plate. Millie stared at him with that look she always had, a mixture of defiance and hurt. "Maybe I don't care about your stupid rules," she muttered. My mother's hand shot across the table, striking Millie's cheek so hard the sound echoed. I froze. I wanted to scream, but instead I stayed silent. My father looked at me then, his eyes softening. "See, this is why we love you," he said. "You're nothing like her." And just like that, the lines were drawn. I was the angel. She was the devil. For years I believed their version of the truth. Whenever Millie slammed doors, I thought she was being dramatic. Whenever she cried, I thought she was just seeking attention. Whenever she ran away from home for a night, I thought she was trying to hurt us. I didn't see what was really happening. Because when you grow up in a house where love is conditional, where affection depends on obedience, you learn to accept things as normal, even when they're not. But there were moments, tiny cracks, in the story my parents built for me. Like the time I was 11, and Millie found me crying in my room. I had gotten a bad grade on a math test, and I was terrified to show my parents. I thought they'd stop loving me if I wasn't perfect. Millie sat on the edge of my bed, her voice soft for once. "Hey, it's just a grade," she said. I shook my head furiously. "No, you don't get it. Dad's gonna be so mad. What if he hates me?" Millie's face changed then. She pulled me into a hug, tighter than I expected. "He'll never hate you," she whispered. "But even if he does, I won't." At the time, I didn't understand. I pushed her away. I thought she was lying. Because in my mind, Millie was the enemy. My parents had made sure of that. As I grew older, the distance between us grew wider. Millie started skipping school. My parents told me she was ruining her life. She started dating boys they didn't approve of. They called her a disgrace. She came home late with tears in her eyes, and my parents would scream at her until their voices cracked. And me? I just sat quietly, trying not to breathe too loud, trying not to become like her. But even then, something inside me always ached when I saw her broken like that. Then came the night that changed everything. I was 15. Millie was 18. It was late, past midnight, when I woke up to shouting downstairs. My parents were screaming again. their voices filled with rage. I crept to the top of the stairs, heart pounding, and peered down. Millie stood in the living room, a small duffel bag slung over her shoulder. She looked wild, desperate, like a cornered animal. "You can't control me anymore," she shouted. "I'm done being your punching bag." My father's hand raised, ready to strike. My mother screamed at her to shut up, and then Millie's eyes flicked upward, straight to where I stood, hidden in the shadows of the staircase. For a second, everything stopped. Our eyes locked. Hers were red from crying, but in them I saw something I had never seen before. Not anger, not rebellion, fear. "Please," she mouthed to me. But I froze. I didn't run down to help her. I didn't scream for them to stop. I just stood there, paralyzed, as my parents unleashed their fury on her. And the next morning, she was gone. My parents told me she ran away. "Ungrateful child," my mother spat. "After everything we've done for her." "She's nothing but trouble," my father added. "You're better off without her." And I believed them, or at least, I wanted to. But deep down, her eyes haunted me. That silent plea, that wordless cry for help. It replayed in my head every night, over and over again. The years that followed were quiet, too quiet. Without Millie, the house felt colder. My parents acted as if she never existed, but I couldn't forget her. Sometimes, late at night, I would whisper into the dark, "Millie, where are you?" I never got an answer. Until one day, I did. For 3 years, Millie was nothing but a ghost in our house. My parents erased her like she never existed. They packed up her things in boxes, shoved them into the attic, and locked the door. They told relatives she was away at school. They told neighbors she was finding herself. But to me, it felt like she had been buried alive. At first, I asked about her. "Where's Millie? Did she call? Is she okay?" My father's jaw would tighten, and my mother's eyes would narrow. "Don't ever mention her name again," my father said once, his voice so sharp, it cut through me. "She made her choice. Now she's dead to us. Dead to us." I remember those words because they left a mark, like a scar I couldn't erase. Life went on, or at least it looked like it did. I became their only child, the shining star. Straight A's, polite manners, quiet obedience. My parents paraded me around like a trophy, showing off how perfect I was. Inside, though, something gnawed at me. I thought about Millie constantly. What was she doing? Where did she go? Was she safe? But most of all, did she hate me for not helping her that night? The guilt stayed with me, heavy and suffocating. Sometimes I dreamed of her standing at the bottom of my bed, eyes filled with the same fear as that night. In the dream, she whispered, "Why didn't you save me?" And I never had an answer. Then, on a rainy afternoon when I was 18, I found the letter. It was tucked inside one of my old books, the one Millie used to borrow. I almost didn't notice it, but a folded piece of paper slipped out when I opened the cover. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. The handwriting was hers. Messy, uneven, hurried. If you're reading this, it means I couldn't say it out loud. They turned you against me, and I don't blame you. But please, don't believe everything they tell you. One day you'll see the truth. And when you do, remember, I always loved you. Even when you hated me. The words blurred as my eyes filled with tears. She had left me a message. She had known I might hate her. And yet, she still loved me. I pressed the paper to my chest, sobbing quietly so my parents wouldn't hear. Because for the first time in years, I felt the truth cracking open inside me. Maybe Millie wasn't the villain after all. That letter lit a fire in me. I started questioning everything my parents had told me. Why did they hate her so much? Why did they call her selfish, dramatic, unstable? Why did they need me to see her as the enemy? The more I thought about it, the more the pieces didn't fit. Like the bruises I used to see on her arms, that she said were from falling. Like the nights she cried herself to sleep, when she thought I wasn't listening. Like the way she always tried to shield me, whenever my father got too angry. And suddenly, I began to wonder, what if Millie wasn't running away from her mistakes? What if she was running away from them? I tried to ask. One night, when my parents and I sat at dinner, I said her name out loud for the first time in years. Do you think Millie's okay? The room went silent. My mother's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My father set his glass down slowly, his eyes narrowing. Why are you bringing her up? He asked, voice low and dangerous. I just wonder where she is, I whispered. My mother slammed her hand on the table, making me jump. She doesn't exist. Do you understand me? She is nothing. If you keep digging into the past, you'll end up just like her. Her words chilled me, just like her. That night, I lay in bed, clutching Millie's letter in my fist, and I made a silent promise to myself. I would find her, no matter what my parents said. It wasn't easy. They kept me under their thumb, watching everything I did. But once I started college, I finally had some freedom, and with freedom came a chance to search. At first, I hit dead ends. No social media, no phone number, no trace. It was like she had disappeared into thin air. But then, something happened. One evening, while studying in the library, I heard someone call my name. Lena! I turned, and my heart almost stopped. It wasn't Millie, but it was someone who knew her. A boy, tall and thin, with tired eyes. He looked familiar, though it took me a moment to place him. Then I remembered. He was one of the guys Millie had dated years ago. The one my parents called trash. You're Millie's sister, right? He asked softly. My throat went dry. Yes. Do you know where she is? His expression darkened. He glanced around nervously before leaning closer. You shouldn't be asking that. Not here. Not now. What do you mean? I whispered urgently. He shook his head, eyes full of something I couldn't name. Fear, maybe, or pity. Just be careful. The truth about your family isn't what you think. And before I could press him, he walked away, leaving me trembling in my chair. That night, I barely slept. His words echoed in my head. The truth about your family isn't what you think. What did he mean? What was he afraid of? I thought the secret was just about Millie, but now it felt bigger, darker, like my whole life had been built on a lie. And then, the very next day, I got the call, a number I didn't recognize, a voice I hadn't heard in years. Lena, I froze. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it would burst, because even after all this time, I knew that voice. Millie, I whispered. There was a pause, a shaky breath on the other end. It's me, she said. I don't have much time, but you need to know the truth. Before it's too late. My hands were shaking so badly, I almost dropped the phone. 3 years of silence. 3 years of guilt. Of unanswered questions. Of whispers in the dark. And now, just like that, her voice was in my ear again. Millie. I breathed, as if saying her name might make her disappear. On the other end, her voice cracked. I wasn't sure if you'd answer. Tears stung my eyes. Of course I'd answer. I've been looking for you. Where are you? Are you safe? There was a pause, and then a sound I'll never forget. A soft, broken laugh. The kind that's more pain than humor. Safe? That depends on what you mean by safe. Her words chilled me. What happened to you? Why did you leave? Millie sucked in a shaky breath. I left because if I stayed, I wouldn't have survived. For a moment, I couldn't speak. The silence between us stretched, heavy with everything we hadn't said. Finally, I forced the words out. Survived? Millie, what are you talking about? You don't know, do you? She whispered. Know what? That they lied to you. About everything. About me. About them. About who they really are. My chest tightened. I thought of the boy from the library. His warning still fresh in my mind. The truth about your family isn't what you think. Millie, please. I begged. Tell me what's going on. I need to know. She hesitated, then spoke in a rush, as if afraid someone might be listening. They made you think I was crazy, didn't they? That I was rebellious, unstable, a problem. That's what they told everyone. But the truth is, I was just the only one who wouldn't stay silent. Her voice trembled. Lena, our parents, they're not who you think they are. They're not just strict. They're... And then the line went dead. No, 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 I cried, pressing the phone to my ear. Millie, Millie, but the call had ended. I tried calling back, but the number didn't work anymore. It was like she had vanished all over again. I sat there in my tiny dorm room, clutching the phone, tears streaming down my face. My chest ached with something I couldn't name. Fear, grief, guilt. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about losing my sister. This was about something much bigger, something dangerous. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing her voice, the way it broke when she said, I wouldn't have survived. What had she meant? What had she been trying to tell me? Before the line cut out, by dawn, I had made a decision. I was going to uncover the truth, even if it destroyed everything I thought I knew. The next week, I started digging. I went through old yearbooks, old photos, anything that might give me a clue. I reached out to people Millie had known in high school. Most didn't want to talk. Some even seemed scared. But one girl, a classmate named Rachel, agreed to meet me for coffee. When I asked about Millie, Rachel's eyes darted around nervously before she leaned in. She was always different, she whispered. Not because she was bad, but because she stood up for herself. She stood up for others, too. Do you remember that teacher, Mr. Kane? I frowned. The math teacher. Rachel nodded. Millie tried to report him. Said he was harassing girls in class. Everyone knew, but nobody said anything. Except her. She went to the principal, but instead of helping, they made it sound like she was making things up. Your parents found out and, well, you know what they're like. My blood ran cold. No, I didn't know. Rachel's voice softened. Millie wasn't the problem, Lena. She was trying to protect people. She tried to protect you too. But your parents, they hated that she wouldn't play their game. Her words felt like a knife twisting in my chest. All those years, I thought Millie was the rebel, the troublemaker. But what if she was just brave? I left that cafe with my head spinning, my heart pounding. The pieces were falling into place, and they painted a picture I didn't want to see. What else had my parents lied about? What else had they covered up? And more importantly, where was Millie now? The next weekend, I went home to visit my parents. I told myself it was just to check in, but really I wanted answers. The moment I stepped into that house, the air felt heavy. The walls seemed to lean in, the way they always had. My mother smiled too wide. My father's eyes watched too closely. Over dinner, I decided to test the waters. So, I said casually, someone at school asked me about Millie. The room froze. My father's fork stopped midair. My mother's smile vanished. What about her? My father asked slowly. I shrugged, pretending not to care. They just wondered where she went. I didn't know what to say. My mother's lips pressed into a thin line. You say nothing. She's gone. That's all anyone needs to know. But don't you ever wonder, I pressed, where she is? If she's okay? My father's eyes hardened. She made her choice, and you'd be smart not to follow her path. His tone made my stomach twist. For the first time, I saw not just strictness, but something darker. Something that sent a shiver down my spine. I excused myself from the table and went upstairs, heart racing, and that's when I noticed it. The attic door, slightly open. I don't know what pulled me toward it. Maybe curiosity, maybe fate. But I climbed the stairs quietly, careful not to let the floorboards creak. Inside, the air was thick with dust. Boxes were stacked high, shadows stretching across the walls. I found the boxes of Millie's things, taped shut, untouched for years. My hands shook as I opened the first one. Old clothes, a few books, a cracked photo frame. Then, at the bottom, I found it. Her old journal. I flipped it open and my heart stopped. The first page read, "If something happens to me, it's because of them." The attic was silent, except for the sound of my own breathing. Shallow, uneven, panicked. That one sentence on the first page of Millie S.'s journal had already made my blood run cold. If something happens to me, it's because of them. Them. Did she mean my parents? My hands trembled as I turned the page. The handwriting was rushed in places, neat in others, like she had written it over different moods, different nights. At first, the entries were small, almost ordinary. Complaints about school, about teachers, about being grounded. But as I kept reading, the words grew darker. They won't stop yelling at me. It doesn't matter what I do. It's never enough. I feel like I'm suffocating in this house. I tried to tell Mom that Dad scares me. She told me to stop being dramatic. She said I'm lucky he cares enough to discipline me. Lucky? Is this what lucky feels like? I don't think they love me. I think they love control. I pressed a hand over my mouth, fighting back tears. Page after page, Millie poured her pain onto the paper. Things I had never seen. Things I had never wanted to see. She wrote about the nights she'd sleep with her door locked, afraid of the footsteps in the hall. About how Mom called her broken and ungrateful. About how Dad would smash her phone, her notebooks, anything she cared about. And then, one entry that made me freeze completely. I tried to protect Lena tonight. Dad was furious about her grade, and I thought he might hit her. I stepped in, and he turned on me instead. She looked so scared. I hope she never finds out how much I've taken for her. My chest tightened so hard I could barely breathe. That night, I remembered it. I had gotten a C on a history test. Dad's face had turned red with rage, but then he let it go after yelling at me. I thought it was strange at the time, but I never questioned it. Now I knew why. Millie had stepped in. She had taken it all, for me, and I hadn't even realized. Tears blurred my vision as I flipped through more pages, and then I found the last entry she had ever written, dated only days before she disappeared. I can't do this anymore. I tried to tell the truth, but no one believes me. They made Lena think I'm crazy. Maybe she'll hate me forever, but one day, she'll see. And when she does, maybe she'll forgive me. I just want her to know I never stopped loving her. She's the only reason I've held on this long. I closed the journal with shaking hands, pressing it to my chest, like it was the only piece of her I had left. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run downstairs and throw it in my parents' faces. But fear held me back, because if Millie was right, if she was telling the truth all along, then the people downstairs weren't just strict parents. They were monsters. I crept back to my room, hiding the journal under my mattress. That night, I lay awake, listening to the sounds of the house. Every creak, every whisper of wind against the windows felt sinister. And then, sometime after midnight, there was a knock at my door. "Lena!" My mother's voice, soft, too soft. "Are you awake?" I froze. Pretending to be asleep, my heart pounded so loudly, I was afraid she could hear it. After a long silence, her footsteps faded, but the unease stayed. The next day, back at school, I couldn't focus on anything. Millie's words burned in my mind. Her warnings, her love, her suffering. I knew I had to do something. I started researching shelters, organizations, anything that might help me track her down. But everything felt like a dead end. And then, one afternoon, I returned to my dorm to find an envelope slipped under my door. No name, no address, just my name scrolled across the front in messy handwriting. I ripped it open with shaking fingers. Inside was a single note. Stop digging, Lena. Some truths are dangerous. For your own good, let it go. I stared at the paper, my blood running cold. Who had left this? How did they know I was looking for Millie? Was someone watching me? I wanted to believe it was just some cruel prank. But deep down, I knew better. This wasn't random. This was a warning. That night, I called the number that had once connected me to Millie. This time, it rang. Once, twice, 3 times. Then, a click. Her voice came through. Low, tired, but real. Lena? Relief flooded me. Millie, thank God, I found your journal. I know the truth now. I believe you. There was silence on the line, and then I heard her sob quietly. I was so scared you never would, she whispered. I'm so sorry, I choked out. For everything, for believing them, for not helping you that night. You were just a kid, she said softly. It wasn't your fault. None of it was your fault. I wiped at my tears, clutching the phone like a lifeline. Then come back. Please, let me see you. Let me help you. Her voice trembled. It's not that simple. If I come back, they'll find me. And if they do, she cut herself off. If they do what? I demanded. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They'll kill me. My hands wouldn't stop trembling, even after I hung up the phone, after Millie's last words. They'll kill me. My fingers felt like they belonged to someone else, soft, clumsy things that couldn't protect anything. I paced my tiny room until the sunlight slid down the wall and pooled at my feet. The journal lay under my mattress like a secret I could hold, and the notes slipped under my door. Stop digging, Lena. Some truths are dangerous. For your own good, let it go. Burned in my mind like a brand. Someone was watching me. Someone who knew. I tried to think like Millie. She had been planning and hiding for years. She'd learned how people moved, the way secrets lived in the seams of a house. If she said they would kill her, she wouldn't say that lightly. She'd already sacrificed so much to keep all of us safe. If she was still alive and scared enough to whisper kill in my ear, then I would not pretend it was a joke. First thing the next morning, I called Aunt Dorothy. I had only sent her one message months ago, after the post had gone viral. In a quiet reply, she'd said, I always suspected. What do you need? At the time, I hadn't known how to ask. Now I had a dozen things to demand, and only the courage to ask for one. Help finding Millie. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice on the phone was like warm wool, safe and familiar. Lena, how are you? She asked. I tried to steady my voice. Aunt D, it's me. I need your help. I'm trying to find Millie. There was a pause. Then quietly, I thought so. I've been waiting for you to be ready. The way she said ready made my throat close. Come over. Bring the journal. Bring anything that proves things. Don't tell anyone. Not even your school. I'll make some calls. I told her everything that had happened in the last week. The call, the journal, the warning note. I left out nothing. And when I hung up, my heart felt shakier and braver all at once. Aunt Dorothy lived 3 states away. She arranged to call a woman she knew, who helped survivors quietly move. She suggested a safe place meeting, a public spot with cameras and people, so no one could make it disappear. She said someone would be with me at the meet. She gave me names I wrote down like prayers. a lawyer who helped women get protection orders, a counselor who specialized in family abuse cases, a social worker who could help with immediate safety. I felt like for the first time in years, I had allies beyond Millie. That afternoon, I ran into Rachel from the cafe again when I was gathering my courage in the student union. She looked at me like someone who already knew too much. She didn't need to ask. I told her about Aunt Dorothy and the plan. Rachel's pale face tightened. "You're doing the right thing," she said. "But you have to be careful who you tell. People like them dye the world in their colors until you can't imagine anything else." "You mean who?" I asked. She nodded toward the ceiling, as if the right answer was up there and too dangerous to say out loud. "People with influence. People who can make other people look away. Don't set this on fire unless you can handle the heat, Lena." Her warning didn't stop me. It only hardened something inside. I had a plan beginning to shape. Gather proof, meet the woman who could move Millie to safety, then push for something official. Police, lawyer, orders. If Millie would meet me in person, if we could get her to a safe house, maybe we could make my parents' reach smaller. I moved fast. I made copies of the journal pages, scanned the voice recordings I'd stored on the old iPod into digital files, and printed them. I emailed Aunt Dorothy the scans, the recordings, everything. I packaged my shame and my anger and sent them off like a plea. That night, I dreamed about the living room, the way it used to be. Lights too bright, the couch too far away, my father's silhouette at the window, my mother's laugh. I woke to a buzzing phone, an unknown number. I wanted to ignore it, but something made me answer. The voice said, "You need to stop, for both your sakes." It was not my mother, not the growl I knew. It was a man, soft, cold. The threat was different than the note, more personal, less clumsy, less afraid. "Who is this?" I asked, my voice smaller than the question. A small, amused breath. "Someone doing your family a favor. If you keep poking, you'll put your sister in more danger. Walk away." I slammed the phone down. My body wanted to run to my parents' house and demand answers. My mind, the hollow, sensible part, whispered to breathe. Running there would be stupid. It would be walking into the trap. Whoever called knew where I lived, or at least had access to my number. Someone could be watching the dorm. Aunt Dorothy called the next morning and told me not to answer unknown numbers. She'd alerted her contacts. Someone would be ready to meet me in a public place within 24 hours. "But Lena," she said, voice small over the line, "don't go alone. Bring someone you trust." I thought of Millie's face, the night she mouthed please to me on the staircase, of the way her fingers curled when the blows rained down. I thought about all the girls Mr. Kane had looked at, like they were windows to be cracked. I thought about my father's hands and how they had learned to make everything, words, apologies, church visits, serve them. I called Evan. It felt like a betrayal to even consider it. He had been a part of the damage. He had scowled when my dad hit me, and later he had become a mirror of the same rage. He had been part of my father's army. But in the past months, there had been a single text. "You were right, I'm sorry." At 2:17 a.m., my thumb hovered over the call button for a long time before I pressed it. If any of this was to work, I needed someone to create a family story that could stand against the parents' narrative. He answered with the same boyish smirk I remembered, but his voice sounded hollow. "Lena?" "Evan," I said, trying to keep the brittle anger out. "Can you meet me? I need to talk. I'm not ready to—" He began, then stopped. I heard traffic. He was somewhere else. "Okay, where?" We agreed on a cafe near campus. He arrived wearing a hoodie and a face that could be either repentance or calculation. He looked at the journal I carried, like it was a dangerous artifact. His fingers trembled as they brushed the pages. "I shouldn't be here," he muttered. He didn't finish. He looked like a child swallowed by grown men's decisions. "Evan," I said softly, "I need you. Not for them. For me. For Millie." He met my eyes for the first time in years. For a beat, it felt like maybe the old brother who tucked us in was still hiding under the rubble. He nodded once, curt and terrified. "I'll help," he whispered. We left the cafe together, awkward allies. The plan was simple and dangerous. I would call the number Aunt Dorothy US friend provided to confirm the safe meeting time. Evan would pretend to be a friend who had found out what our parents had done. An angry family member demanding justice. He would be our story. A son who had seen the truth and wanted to help. If Evan could give them confusion, maybe my parents would hesitate to retaliate in a way that made them obvious. That night, I waited by the phone until it rang. My pulse jackhammered against my ribs. When the call came, it was a local number, a woman's voice, precise, professional. "We can meet at the municipal library, steps by the front plaza, 2 hours from now. Come alone if you trust your safety plan. Or bring another. We'll have an advocate there." I remembered Aunt Dorothy saying, "Bring someone you trust." I glanced at Evan, who stood beside me, playing with his cup, like he was working out a knot in his hands. He swallowed, eyes open. "I'll be with you," he said. I wanted to believe him. We walked to the library under a sky that had turned the color of old bruises. People moved around us, oblivious, carrying their small lives, and someone threw a cigarette to the curb. The world felt absurdly ordinary for the kind of danger that had been whispering to me for weeks. We reached the steps, and there she was. A woman in a grey coat, hair pulled back, a badge clipped to her bag. Her name was Sarah. She smiled at me in a way that made me feel like I had been granted permission to keep breathing. "Lena," she said my name like she had been waiting. "I'm so sorry. We've arranged a secured shelter, temporary, until we can get emergency protection orders filed. We have a van on standby, but we need to be quick. Is your sister able to travel?" I opened my mouth to answer. The world narrowed into a pinpoint of possibility. Millie, alive, maybe reachable, maybe safe. For the first time since finding the journal, I pictured her not as a memory, but as a person I could touch. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A single new message from an unknown number. My stomach fell with the cold knowledge that this had to be one of the people watching me. I pulled it out with shaking hands. The photo that loaded made my knees give just enough for me to grab the step. It was Millie. She was not smiling. A bruise darkened the skin under one eye. Her hair was damp, flat against her head, but worse. The photo was taken in a room I recognized. The corner of a living room with a lamp I had seen in our house. The caption, 3 words, "Don't come, Lena." Someone stepped forward to ask if I was all right, and I felt Evan's hand on my back, steady and panicked. Behind me, a voice, low, controlled, unmistakable, said my name like a knell. "Lena!" I turned, and there he was, standing at the top of the steps, like he belonged to every shadow the city had ever had. My father's eyes were calm, too calm. The world went quiet in a way I will always remember. The world seemed to stop spinning when I saw him. My father, standing at the top of the library steps, as if he had been waiting for me all along. His eyes were calm, too calm. Not anger, not shock, just a terrifying stillness. Like a hunter who knows the animal has nowhere left to run. Every hair on my body stood on end. Evan stiffened beside me, his hand slipping away from my back as if burned. Sarah, the advocate, didn't know who he was. Not yet. She only saw the man in a pressed shirt, his jaw sharp with authority, his expression unreadable. But I knew that expression. I had grown up beneath it. "Lena," he said again, softer now, almost gentle, as if we were back in the kitchen and he was telling me dinner was ready. My throat went dry. "What are you doing here?" He tilted his head, studying me. "That's what I should be asking you." His eyes flicked to Sarah, then to Evan. He didn't say anything more, but he didn't have to. His presence was a threat all by itself. Sarah stepped forward, her tone polite but firm. "Sir, this is a private meeting. Can I help you with something?" He gave her a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "You can help by telling me why you re-talking to my daughter without my knowledge." My chest tightened. The air felt thin. This wasn't just intimidation. This was control. He was trying to twist the situation, make me look like the one sneaking around. I wanted to scream the truth, to tell Sarah what he'd done, to show her the journal, the recordings, the bruises hidden in old photographs. But my father's voice was like a chokehold, dragging me back into silence. "Lena," he said softly, "why don't you come home with me? We'll sort this out as a family. No need to involve strangers." The lie in his tone was so familiar, it made me shake. Evan moved then, surprising me. He stepped between us, his shoulders squared. "Dad, no, she's not going with you." For a heartbeat, silence. My father looked at Evan, the way he used to look at stray dogs that wandered too close to the yard. Cold, dismissive, calculating. "Son," he said smoothly, "you don't know what you're talking about. Go home." But Evan didn't move. His fists were clenched, his voice trembling but strong. "I know enough. I know what you did to Millie, and to Lena, and I'm done pretending." The words hung in the air like shattered glass. I couldn't breathe. My brother, the boy who had once turned away, who had chosen survival over solidarity, was finally standing on my side. My father's face hardened. "Careful, Evan." His voice dropped. "Dangerous now. You don't want to say something you'll regret." Sarah reached for her phone, her instincts sharp. "Sir, I think it's best you leave. Right now." And then, before anyone could react, my father smiled. That terrifying, calm smile. "You think you're saving her," he murmured. "You have no idea what you're stepping into." He slipped something from his pocket and held it up just long enough for me to see the corner of a photograph. Millie's face. The same bruised picture I had received only minutes earlier. My legs nearly buckled. He wasn't bluffing. He had her. Or at least, he knew exactly where she was. I lunged forward, my voice cracking. "Where is she? What have you done to her?" His eyes locked on mine, unblinking. "She's safe for now, safer than she's ever been. If you stay out of this." My heart thrashed in my chest. Rage and terror collided inside me, until I could barely tell which one was stronger. "You're lying," I whispered. "You've always lied." His calm faltered then, just slightly, like a ripple on still water. "Believe what you want, but understand this. If you keep digging, if you keep dragging strangers into family matters, you'll lose both your sisters, permanently." And then, just like that, he turned and walked down the steps. Not rushed, not afraid, confident, certain that his shadow stretched farther than anyone could escape. I stood frozen, my breath ragged, the city sounds around us muffled by the pounding in my ears. Sarah was already on the phone, speaking quickly into it, something about law enforcement contact and emergency intervention. Evan stood beside me, pale and shaking, his fists still clenched. But all I could think about was Millie, her face in that photograph, her warning in the note, her whispered words on the phone. They'll kill me. And for the first time, the full weight of it hit me. I wasn't just fighting for the truth anymore. I was fighting for her life. I couldn't feel my legs as I watched him disappear into the street. My father, the man who had shaped every silence of my childhood, every bruise of Millie's, every fear that curled under my skin, and now he had shown me proof. He had Millie. The world tilted on its axis. I wanted to collapse, but I couldn't. If I broke now, Millie would stay broken forever. Sarah touched my arm gently. Lena, look at me. I forced myself to meet her eyes. She was steady, sharp, but compassionate. He's dangerous, I can see that. But you are not alone anymore. We're going to move fast, before he can twist this further. Do you understand? I nodded, though my throat burned. Evan still stood frozen a few steps away, staring down the direction Dad had gone, as though expecting him to reappear. His face was pale, but there was something fierce in his eyes. For once, he wasn't shrinking back. Sarah began making calls, speaking in clipped professional tones. I only caught fragments. Protective custody. Temporary injunction. Liaison with local PD. The words blurred, but one thing sank in. We weren't playing in shadows anymore. This was going to courtrooms, paperwork, police reports, real light, and real risk. Because my father thrived in shadows, in whispers, in closed doors and family matters. If we dragged him into the open, he would bare his teeth. That night, I stayed at a safe motel arranged by Sarah's group. Evan insisted on staying in the room next door, refusing to leave me alone. I lay on the stiff mattress, staring at the ceiling. The journal clutched to my chest. Millie's words looped in my head. One day, she'll see. And when she does, maybe she'll forgive me. I whispered into the dark. I see you now, Millie. I swear I won't stop until I bring you home. Sleep didn't come. Instead, memories did. The time Millie wrapped her thin arms around me after Dad broke my favorite toy, whispering, "Don't cry, I'll give you mine." The time she stood between me and Mom's slap, her own cheek burning red after. The time I called her selfish, cruel, a liar, when all she had ever done was bleed herself dry to protect me. By dawn, my pillow was damp with tears. But there was no room for weakness anymore. The next morning, Sarah gathered us around the motel table, papers spread across its surface. Affidavits, intake forms, copies of Millie's journal pages, my digital recordings. "This is enough to initiate emergency protective orders," she said firmly. "It won't hold forever, but it will buy us time. If Millie is alive and in danger, we can press for law enforcement to intervene." "If," I snapped, my voice sharper than I intended. "She is alive. He has her. He sent me the photo." Sarah didn't flinch. "I believe you. But the law moves on evidence. We'll push for every inch we can get. And Lena," she looked at me with quiet intensity, "you will need to testify." My stomach lurched, caught, staring my parents down, speaking the truth out loud after years of silence. Evan spoke before I could. "I'll testify too." I turned to him, stunned. He swallowed hard, but his jaw was set. "I saw it. I saw enough. I can't pretend anymore. If it helps Millie, if it helps you, I'll do it." Something inside me cracked open then. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was carrying it all alone. But strength was a fragile thing. That afternoon, while Sarah was out making arrangements, there was a knock at my motel door. Evan was supposed to be next door. I thought it was him, so I opened it. It wasn't Evan. It was my mother. She stood there in a pale coat, her hair pinned neatly back, her expression soft. Too soft. The same softness she used when she detucked me in after letting Dad's rage burn itself out. The softness that made the bruises look like misunderstandings. "Lena," she whispered, reaching for me. Sweetheart, please. You don't know what you're doing. I froze, every muscle screaming. How did you find me? She smiled faintly, tilting her head. A mother always knows. Her perfume hit me then, sickly sweet, dragging me back to childhood nights when she'd kiss my forehead after telling me to be good, don't make him angry. Millie's in danger, I spat, my voice shaking. Dad has her. He sent me proof. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. Then she shook her head, sighing like I was a child again. Oh, darling, you've let outsiders poison your mind. Millie was troubled. You know that. She ran away because she couldn't handle responsibility. Your father, he only ever tried to guide us. To guide you. The gaslighting landed like knives. No, I whispered. I found her journal. I know the truth now. For the first time, my mother's mask cracked. Her lips tightened. Her eyes went cold. That journal should have been destroyed. My blood froze. You knew. She stepped closer, her voice dropping to a hiss. Listen to me, Lena. If you keep pushing, you won't just lose Millie. You'll lose everything. Your family, your safety, your future. They'll chew you up out there. Do you think strangers really care? Do you think they'll protect you when this gets ugly? My knees wobbled. For a heartbeat, I was a little girl again, desperate for her approval, terrified of losing love. But then Millie's bruised face flashed in my mind. The whispered, "They'll kill me." I straightened, my voice trembling, but fierce. You already took everything. You don't get to take my sister too. Her face hardened into something sharp, dangerous. You're making a mistake, Lena. And before I could respond, Evan appeared in the doorway behind her. His voice shook with fury. No, Mom, you made the mistake. She spun to face him, her expression flickering with something between shock and rage. For a moment, the three of us stood there, caught in a fragile, deadly triangle of truth and lies. Then my phone buzzed again. Another message, another photo. This time, Millie wasn't just bruised. She was tied to a chair, and the caption read, "Last chance." The photo burned into my vision, even after I lowered the phone. Millie, my sister. Her arms strapped to the chair with rope, her head bowed forward, a bruise swelling on her cheekbone. The words beneath her picture, "Last chance," glared at me like a death sentence. My breath hitched. My chest collapsed inward. My body wanted to fall to the floor, but I couldn't. I couldn't afford to. Lena! Evan's voice was sharp, pulling me back. His eyes darted to the phone in my hand. What is it? What did they send? I couldn't speak. My hands shook as I turned the screen toward him. His face drained of all color. Oh God! Behind him, my mother's face remained terrifyingly calm. No gasp, no panic. Just a cold, knowing quiet. Like she had been expecting this all along. Where is she? I demanded, rounding on her. My voice cracked, raw with fury. Where is Millie? Her lips parted, a faint smile tugging at them. Sweetheart, she's where she belongs. With family. We're just waiting for you to stop playing games with these strangers and come home. Then everything can go back to the way it was. The way it was. Those 4 words almost split me in half. The way it was meant. Bruises hidden under long sleeves. Whispered apologies that never healed. Silence choking the air of every room. The way it was meant, Millie bleeding herself dry to protect me. Until finally she broke. Never again. No, I hissed. Tears streaming down my face. I'll never go back, and neither will she. Something flickered across my mother's face then. Not fear, not shame. Something closer to rage. Carefully hidden under porcelain skin. You think the world cares about you? She snapped suddenly, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. You think these women with clipboards and their fake promises will protect you. They'll forget your name in a week. But we, your father and I, we are the only ones who will always be there. Her words crashed against me like waves, pulling, dragging, trying to suck me under. But I clung to the journal, to the photos, to the sound of Millie's broken voice on the phone. They'll kill me. I found my breath, my strength, and spat the only truth I had left. You don't get to own me anymore. Evan stepped beside me, his fists trembling at his sides. Or me. For the first time, I saw fear crackle in her eyes, not because of me, but because her son, the golden boy, wasn't standing with her anymore. Her voice dropped to a hiss. You don't know what you've started. And before either of us could stop her, she turned and stormed down the motel hallway, her heels striking the floor like gunshots. I collapsed into the chair, my body shaking violently. Sarah burst into the room seconds later, her phone in hand. I saw her leaving. Are you okay? What happened? I shoved the phone into her hands. The photo, the message. Her face tightened instantly. We don't have time. If she's tied up, that means escalation. We're past warnings now. Where is she? I croaked. Sarah shook her head. We'll get the police involved immediately. But if he has connections... She cut herself off, then locked eyes with me. Lena, listen, you cannot go to him alone. Do you understand? If you do, you may not come back. But how could I sit here, in a sterile motel room, while Millie sat bound in a chair, waiting for me? I have to go, I whispered. Evan grabbed my arm, his grip desperate. No, Lena, don't be stupid. That's exactly what he wants. He wants you to run to him, to walk into the trap. Tears blurred my vision. Then what? We wait, while she dies? My voice cracked so loud it made even Sarah flinch. The room was spinning, collapsing in on me. Every second felt like one more cut against Millie's skin. Every breath felt like a betrayal. Sarah spoke quietly, urgently. There's another way. If we can trace where the message was sent from, we might locate her. I know someone who can help us track it. Fast. I blinked, trying to catch on to her words. Track it? Yes. It's risky, but it's better than running blind. We get a location, we call law enforcement, we bring backup. We don't let him control the game. It made sense. It was smart, but logic couldn't drown the image of Millie's swollen face. Her body tied to that chair. I looked at Evan. His eyes, so much like mine, so haunted, pleaded with me. Please, Lena, don't give him what he wants. Let's be smarter than him for once. My chest heaved. My body shook. Finally, I nodded. Okay, I whispered. Track it. Find her. The next hours blurred together. Sarah called a contact, a cybersecurity specialist, who volunteered for the organization. They worked quickly, tracing the origin of the photo. Every minute stretched into eternity. And then, at last, the specialist called back. We got a ping, Sarah said, her voice sharp with adrenaline. It's coming from a property registered under your father's company. An old warehouse, 15 miles outside town. My heart stopped. A warehouse. Millie. Alone. Bound. Sarah's hand was steady. Her words crisp. I'm calling the police. But Lena, if he knows we found him, he may panic. That could put her in more danger. We need to move carefully. But I barely heard her, because all I could think was, Millie was so close. And if I didn't get to her soon, she might not be alive when they finally arrived. That night, while Sarah worked with law enforcement, I stood at the motel window, staring at the stretch of highway leading out of town. Evan sat beside me, silent, his hands clenched into fists. The clock ticked. The world breathed. And with every passing second, My sister's life slipped further away. Until finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I turned to Evan, my voice low, breaking. I can't wait for them. I have to go. Tonight. His eyes widened, horrified. Lena! But I cut him off. My voice fierce, trembling. She's my sister. If I don't save her now, I'll lose her forever. Evan stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. I'm coming with you. The warehouse loomed like a shadow against the dark night sky. Its jagged edges cutting into the faint glow of the moon. Rusting metal, broken windows, and the faint smell of oil and decay greeted us before we even stepped inside. Evan's hand found mine, gripping tightly. Stay close, he whispered. His voice trembled, though he tried to mask it with authority. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. Millie's in there. The words felt like fire in my chest, consuming every ounce of fear. We moved carefully, every step deliberate, avoiding the broken glass and creaking metal floors. Each echo of our footsteps made my heart pound harder. Over there, Evan whispered, pointing to a faint light flickering at the far end. It looked like a lantern, or maybe a candle. I nodded and took a deep breath. Stay quiet! The closer we got, the clearer it became. A chair, ropes, the unmistakable shape of Millie. Millie! I called, my voice breaking with both relief and fear. Her head lifted slightly, and for a moment, her eyes widened in disbelief. Then she cried out, softly, weakly, almost like a whisper. Lena! My legs carried me forward without thought. Every second of hesitation gone. I dropped to my knees beside her, quickly undoing the ropes around her wrists. Shh, it's okay, I whispered, pressing my forehead against hers. I've got you. I'm here now. You're safe. Her sobs shook her entire body, and I clutched her tighter, feeling the small, trembling frame in my arms. Evan scanned the warehouse, alert. We're not alone, he muttered. His eyes flicked to shadows, corners, the faint movement of something or someone, just out of sight. And then I saw him, my father, standing at the top of a staircase, his silhouette dark against the dim light above. His face was unreadable, but his presence alone made the air heavy, suffocating. You've finally arrived, he said slowly, almost mockingly. I wondered how long it would take you to find her. Hands off, I shouted, stepping between him and Millie. If you touch her, I swear. Swear what? He interrupted, his voice calm, but filled with menace. You think you have control now, that you can save her and walk away. That's not how the world works, Lena. She's mine, and so are you. Evan stepped forward, fists clenched. Not tonight. My father's gaze flicked to him, a slow, deliberate smile spreading across his face. Ah, the loyal one, always eager to play hero. How predictable. I could see Millie trembling behind me, her hands still raw from the ropes. Lena, please. I swallowed, forcing my fear down. This was the moment. No hesitation. No second chances. Leave, I said, my voice low but unyielding. Both of you, so now, or I'll make sure the world sees what you've done here. My father laughed, a cold, hollow sound. And who will stop me? You? A frightened girl clutching her little sister. I felt something shift inside me. The fear, the despair, the endless waiting. It all condensed into one burning truth. I would not let him win. Evan moved beside me, fists raised. We do this together, he said, his voice steady. And then it happened. I grabbed the metal rod leaning against the wall, rusted, heavy, but perfect. My hand trembled as I held it, but I didn't let it falter. Get her out of here, I hissed at Evan. I'll hold him. He hesitated. No, Lena. Go, I shouted. and something primal surged through me, the protective, furious, unbreakable force of a sister who would not lose her family. Evan pulled Millie to safety. As I stepped forward, my father advanced, slow, confident, but every step he took, I matched, not with fear, with fire. "You underestimated me," I said, my voice echoing off the metal walls. "You thought you could break me. You were wrong." He paused, studying me, and for the first time, I saw uncertainty flash across his face. A crack in the armor. I swung the rod, the metal connecting with a crate just to the side. The sound of it crashing to the floor reverberated like a gunshot. "Lena." Millie's voice came from the distance, weak but resolute. "You're done," I said, taking a step closer. "You lose, tonight." And in that warehouse, surrounded by shadows and flickering light, I finally understood something. The fear that had ruled my life, the terror my family had used to control me. It had no power here, not anymore. My father's face twisted, a snarl forming, but I stood taller, breathing hard, unshaken, unbroken, because tonight I was not just a sister, I was a force, and I would not be silenced. The warehouse was thick with tension, the kind that makes every breath feel heavy. My father's eyes glinted with anger and disbelief as I stood my ground, the metal rod still trembling slightly in my hands. "You really think you can defeat me?" he hissed, advancing slowly, each step measured. "I've controlled everything, everyone, for years. You are nothing." I took a deep breath, steadying my racing heart. "I'm not nothing. I'm a sister. I'm someone who refuses to be afraid anymore. And you're finished." For a moment, he seemed to weigh my words, then lunged toward me with surprising speed. I swung the rod instinctively, hitting him across the side. He staggered, letting out a grunt of surprise. Evan appeared beside me, holding Millie close. "Go, now! I've got this!" I shouted, my voice rough but determined. Millie's eyes were wide, terrified, but she trusted me. She followed Evan, disappearing into the shadows towards safety. I watched them go, my heart tightening, but there was no time for hesitation. The fight was chaotic, loud, and exhausting. My father was strong and cunning, but my fury was stronger. Every swing, every movement was fueled by years of fear, anger, and the need to protect the people I loved. "You're reckless!" he spat, swiping at me with unexpected ferocity. "I'm unstoppable," I shot back, dodging and striking, the metal rod connecting again and again. "You taught me fear, but you never taught me how to give up." And finally, after what felt like an eternity, he stumbled backward, crashing into a stack of crates. Dust and splinters filled the air. He groaned, coughing, his confidence shattered. I stood over him, breathing hard, every muscle trembling from the effort. "This ends tonight," I said, voice steady, almost calm. "No more terror, no more control. You're done." He glared at me, defeated but unwilling to fully admit it. And yet, something had shifted. The power he held over me, over my family, had vanished. Outside, Evan and Millie waited, hearts pounding, adrenaline coursing through them. As we emerged from the warehouse, the night air felt like freedom itself. Millie ran to me, throwing her arms around my waist. "You did it," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. I held her tightly. "We did it," I corrected, knowing Evan was beside her, sharing the moment of relief. Together, Evan smiled, wiping a tear from his cheek. "You were incredible," he said. "I've never seen anyone fight like that." I chuckled softly, exhausted but happy. I had to. For her. For all of us. Millie hugged me tighter, sobbing and laughing at the same time. I thought I'd never get out." "You are safe now," I assured her. Forever safe. The following days were a blur of healing, apologies, and reflection. Our family, though shaken, began to rebuild. We spoke openly for the first time, exposing lies, confronting past mistakes, and pledging to never allow fear to dominate us again. And as for me, I realized something profound. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was acting in spite of it. That warehouse that night had taught me my own strength, and it had shown me that love, loyalty, and determination could overpower even the darkest shadows. I looked at Millie, at Evan, at the people I loved, and finally felt free. Free from fear, free from control, free to live, and to protect those who mattered most. No more running, no more hiding, no more letting anyone dictate my life. I was no longer just a sister. I was a survivor, a fighter, and the keeper of my own destiny. And the world, no matter how dark it seemed, would never see me broken again.